Another N7 day has come and gone, and with it we have been treated to a few more morsels of intrigue to fuel our almost feverish speculation until the next N7 day rolls around. I'll go through the events of the day and analyse as much as I can as we go through, and events will be broken down into easier to follow segments. Also, very sorry that I'm so late with this video, but without further ado, let's start at the beginning. Things kicked off with the now normal letter from the lead dev, in this case Michael Gamble. Immediately a few things stand out here to me, specifically in the middle part of the letter, the questions. What happened to everyone you know and love? This seems to be a good indication that we are heading back to, in some way at least, events of the galaxies and systems after the events of Mass Effect 3. What the heck is going on with our Asari scientist turned shadow broker? A further indication that Liara has a much bigger role to play this time around. These next two though, who had kids with whom? Could this be a playful poke from BioWare to the community in regards to the theories saying that the next main character is going to be the child of Liara and Shepard? I mean, who knows at this point? And the final question, good lord, who really died? Now, this could be any character that has passed off screen. Ashley, Caden, depending on your choice on that one. Morden, perhaps? These are all passings that we didn't see a final end to. They all just assumed at this point they all kind of happened off screen. But I think this is either a big hint that Shepard may have found a way back into the Mass Effect universe, or it's a big red herring. The other interesting bit I glanced from this letter is the part where Mr. Gamble mentions the endings. Not the ending, as in singular, as in one canon ending, but the endings. Seemingly all of them. I have a long-standing theory about this one that I had written a partial script for some months ago, but I never actually finished it. But it basically centered around whether BioWare is actually going to go with the Destroy ending as canon, or whether there's a little bit of deliberate subterfuge at hand. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that, and I'll find it, finish it, and I'll make it into a video. Moving on, we scroll down the page and we find posts on what various merch companies affiliated with BioWare are doing to celebrate N7 Day. But as you scroll down more and more, you start to notice some curiosities. Zeros and ones start appearing within the text. If you note all these down and run it through a binary code to English converter, you get the word epsilon. This ended up being a code word that unlocked a countdown and then revealed the first of 3 cut down teasers. Here's the first one. For the second teaser, the code word was Oculon, but came with the longer title on the webpage that said Oculon-2819-Defiance. Oculon being the code word, as well as a nod to a name that was considered for the game series before the name Mass Effect eventually won through. Same for the code word Epsilon actually too, as you can see here in this graphic. A nice little callback. The second code word gave us teaser number 2. The third and final code word was Nebula. Of course, another callback to old considered titles for the original game, and it gave us this final teaser. I should also mention that above each of these teasers, when they finally unlocked, there was writing above the video player. The first one on the Epsilon video says, secondary code accepted, Andromeda distress signal detected, year sent, redacted. It also has part of the line from the teaser on N7 Day last year, with Liara speaking to the Geth and saying, although you should know by now not to underestimate human defiance, although for some reason defiance is blanked out I think. The Oculon writing says tertiary encryption detected, classified, review briefing materials on official Alliance comms channels. What's more interesting here is the date on the title line, 2819, the year the Hyperion arc arrives in the Andromeda galaxy, a second reference in these little writings alone to Andromeda. The final text on the Nebula page is short and sweet, saying security breach detected, contact Systems Alliance. After all the teasers were unlocked, BioWare released the full unedited clip on the Mass Effect YouTube channel, so let's give this a quick analysis. From the moment the teaser begins, we can see in the background what appears to be a Krogan. I and others think this is based on the size of the character and the armour. There is also a light on the front of the armour too, which is common on various Krogan armour types throughout all of the Mass Effect games. As the clip continues, we see the shoes of our main character with a small bit of red and white, which already indicates that there may be an N7. As the trailer continues, we see what looks like storage containers in the background, maybe indicating a shipyard area or more of an industrial setting. From this point, the camera begins to pan up, revealing more of our main character wearing a, frankly, very cool long black coat. As the camera continues to pan up though, we do see our confirmation that this is indeed an N7 operative, with that well-known red stripe going down the sleeve. We also notice in the background that there does seem to be some vehicles flying by outside and tall buildings in the distance. Could this be on the Citadel? I personally think so, but it could be somewhere different, maybe in Andromeda. We just don't get to see enough to make any kind of conclusive decision. As the camera finishes its upwards movement, we finally get to see the big reveal of our N7 operative, though not a full face reveal. We see a sleek rounded helmet with a conveniently tinted visor, thank you Michael Gamble, and we see that famous N7 logo on the front of the coat as well as on the back of the collar too. The character looks straight at us and seemingly gives us, or maybe the Krogan back down the hallway, a bit of a nod, almost with a bit of attitude might I add. As they begin to walk away, they pull out what appears to be a double-barreled silenced pistol, which we do get a clearer look at in the next section of the video. The character then walks towards the outside, towards a ship in the distance it looks like, with weather conditions looking less than ideal, explaining the need for the helmet probably. The teaser then cuts to black and we get the Mass Effect title, and it pretty much ends with that. I will say that the main character seems to be female, and combined with what Michael Gamble said in his letter about who really died, could this really be Commander Shepard? Or is it a new N7? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Next we have the teaser poster. This gives us a full-length shot of the N7 operative in question, with their cool, almost spy-like look. And we now get a closer look at the gun. I initially thought this could be a modified Carnifex pistol, but on closer inspection there seems to be way more differences than similarities. It looks to have more similarities to the M3 Predator pistol, but way lighter looking with the silencers of course. The fact that this has a silencer on it leads me to think that this character is more of a spy, part of a stealth class maybe, not wanting to bring attention to themselves. The weapon also has N7 branding on it, making it seem like that this is a special issue weapon for N7 operatives. But moving on to what is arguably, for me at least, the most intriguing part of this poster and probably the most intriguing part of the entire N7 day reveals. Within the main picture is another picture of a club scene. The club I have not been able to identify as of yet. It seems to be that it's new, as it doesn't really match any of the clubs we visited throughout the original trilogy or in Andromeda. Now let me tell you, there is a lot going on in this scene, mainly with the number of races that are in it, and curiously some that aren't. I'm going to go from left to right and split the picture into 3 separate images so that we catch as much as possible. On image 1, on the far left, we have what appears to be a Solarian waiting to be served at the bar. As we move right and closer to us in the foreground, we see a human male serving or giving an Asari a drink. Between these two people's heads, we see what looks to be a Turian leaning against the bar, and to the far right of image 1, we have what appears to be 2 humans, 1 male and 1 female, in discussion. The male does seem to have something on their face, but I'm not able to tell if it's mechanical, technological, or just a tattoo. Moving on to image number 2, we have possibly the most interesting characters shown, moving from left to right. we see what looks like a very well built and very tall Solarian talking to a human. A Volus is directly behind the human, and behind the Volus we see 2 Krogans. We can also see a human male walking across the dance floor. Then directly next to his head we can see a figure that I can't make out at all. They're possibly wearing a helmet, so at a long shot it could be a Quarian, but I really don't think that it is. Now for the really juicy bit. Next to the mystery figure is an Angara talking to an Asari, while the Asari is seemingly being protected by what looks like the most awkward looking Geth I have ever seen. And also the Geth's wearing clothes for some reason too. There is a lot of speculation that this Angara is talking to none other than Liara, and the Geth is the one that she was talking to within the N7 teaser from last year. But whether any of that is true, we just don't know at this point. But to see a Geth and an Angara is something I don't think any of us were expecting. And to finish off image 2, we also see a human female speaking with another Solarian. And finally we come to image 3. Starting off left to right, we can see 3 Hanar, 1 in the foreground and 2 higher up in the background. We also see a Turian speaking to a human female. A lot of the community seem to think that the Turian might be Garrus, and while the eyewear that this particular Turian is wearing does strike an uncanny resemblance to Mr. Vicarian's, the legs seem to be somewhat different, and honestly I'm not 100% convinced that they would just dump Garrus in purely for fan service. And finally, we see 2 humans in the very close foreground, and interestingly, the female seems to be wearing a similar, if not the same outfit as Liara does in the first Mass Effect game. And other than actual jellyfish in the tank behind the humans, that's pretty much it. I won't lie, the Angara talking to the Asari with a Geth flanking nearby was probably the craziest thing to me. Didn't have that on my bingo card when these teasers were being dropped. I will say though, there does seem to be a lack of Quarian, Drell and Batarians in this image, which did make me initially think that this scene was based in Andromeda, as all of those races were on the Keeler CR arc, but also so were the Hanar and the Volus, which are most definitely in this image. So honestly, I have no idea what to think at this point. So, to sum up, I have way more questions than I do answers, and I bet Michael Gamble is rubbing his hands together in glee. There is one more thing from N7 Day though. Later on, after N7 Day events had cooled down, gaming journalist Jeff Grubb said on one of his podcast discussions that it's likely that the next Mass Effect won't release until 2029. Having seen the clip in question, it does seem like he's basing it on mostly his own guess and the way that the development of Dragon Age is going. And while I'd like to rely on something a bit more solid, Jeff does have a decent track record. But Dragon Age is still on the Frostbite engine, which could take longer to develop for anyway, whereas the next Mass Effect is in Unreal Engine 5, we think anyway. Having said that, BioWare has let go of staff from the company in recent weeks and months, and less people on a game will ultimately mean longer development cycles, unless there's information we aren't aware of at this point. I hope Jeff is wrong on this one. 2029 is just over 5 years away at this point, and the new Mass Effect has seemingly been in pre-production for at least 3 years now. It just seems like a really long time. But Mass Effect and Dragon Age both have a lot riding on them at the moment, and honestly I'd rather they take their time to make something that everyone will love, but only time will tell. Hello, Future Ash here. Sorry, I did miss a few things on my initial write through and recording of this video, so I'm just going to add them in here. Firstly, there is some very recognisable music playing in certain parts of this trailer. Part of one of the tracks is from Eden Prime. We also have part of the Andromeda song from the Mass Effect Andromeda soundtrack. Some people have said they can also maybe hear the Mars soundtrack in there. I'm not 100% certain of that myself. I also kind of watched Carla Elizabeth's video on this one, and she's kind of broken it down a bit better than I have in here because I didn't do it at all. And she's also unsure as to whether it's the Mars soundtrack or not. But go and have a listen on her video and see for yourself. And also there is Arlac Company in there as well, which that is way more obvious in there. Also, I wanted to point out that there are some really interesting parallels between the 2020 Game Awards trailer and the N7 Day 2023 trailer. Liara's trailer is coloured very bright and blue and almost hopeful, whereas the N7 Day 2023 trailer is very dark, it's gritty, and has focus on the red of the N7, maybe indicating the return of Paragon and Renegade. Also, in the character poster that we see later on in the video, there is the use of red and blue in the colouring, and it almost seems deliberate really. It's just so much red and blue in there, and you can kind of see the Paragon symbol within the poster too. So just a few add-ons there that I missed on the initial run through of the video. Now back to regular me. And that is about it as far as I can see for N7 Day 2023. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Carla Elizabeth, who I'm sure a lot of you may know by now, who kindly invited Rima and I onto an N7 Day roundtable discussion, which was a bunch of fun. This was with Carla, Lady Insanity, Paragon 7 and N7 Kate. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll link you to Carla's video of it in the description below. Go over there, show some love to her and her channel. She's so close to 8,000 subs on YouTube right now. Go and get her over the line. As well as everybody else involved too. Go and show them some love, please. Let me know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. Thank you all to those who showed up to our N7 Day stream after us being gone for so long. It meant so much, honestly. Thank you. And also thanks for watching this video, and maybe I'll see you in another one soon.